Man, running a successful VTuber company, it feels is damn near impossible. I mean, just look at what has happened in this industry since its inception. The pioneer of VTubing, Kizuna Ai, no longer makes content and instead tried to launch this weird anime that promotes NFTs and cryptocurrency. One of the largest VTuber companies in history, Nijisanji, had a series of fuck-ups so devastating their CEO had to come out and make a public apology. Wactor got itself such a devastatingly bad reputation that they were basically forced to rebrand as 910 Incorporated in an attempt to salvage their assets after their reputation was demolished. As of March 24th, AkioAir announced that it's going to completely shut down. Kometa likes to pretend that it's still a company that still exists, except for the fact that all of their talents graduated. So even though the company technically still exists, they're very much dead. Prism Project is on its last week before it finally ceases operations. V-Reverie is down to exactly one VTuber, and that's Nova, the only one who hasn't graduated or been terminated yet. VNU Entertainment is currently in a massive controversy after the termination of their talent Amino Seraphi because they tried to bill her an absolutely insane amount of money, almost $500,000 for her to leave. And then you have God know how many microscopic VTuber agencies like Globy who are just sort of languishing in obscurity, struggling to find relevance in a highly saturated market. So what is it specifically about this genre of content that makes it feel damn near impossible to be run successfully? I think it boils down to a couple of main points. Number one, VTubing is insanely competitive. In order to be relevant and competitive in this industry, you need a gaming PC worth thousands of dollars. You need a high quality microphone, more often than not going with big budget items like a Go XLR microphone. The VTuber model itself can be thousands of dollars. And if you want to have lore and art and transitions and overlays and backgrounds and all that stuff, debuting a single VTuber as part of a company can easily cost around 10 grand per person. So if you want to debut a wave with like 5 talents, you better come up with 50 grand minimum. That's not including the cost of management. That's not including the cost of hiring a legal team to write and supervise your contracts. That's not including the cost of production of events and music and all the other miscellaneous things that you need to do. So if you're starting a VTuber company with less than $100,000, you're basically begging to fail before you've even begun. But the problem with such a massive monetary upfront cost is the fact that there's absolutely zero guarantee that any of this is gonna pay off. You could sink tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars into this company only for no one to care, for you to fade into obscurity and completely lose every penny that you sunk into it and end up in a world of hurt and a mountain of debt. Unless you skyrocket into the stratosphere and become one of the top names, you're begging for bankruptcy. And that's not even beginning to talk about the fact that this entire industry is run like an idol industry, like a music talent agency. But the problem is that setup is centered around mainstream music, which you can consistently expect to make crazy amounts of money. The entire format of this business model is copy-pasted from an industry that prints hella money. Trying to effectively build your own media company from nothing is so insanely difficult, it's not even funny. And that's not even to mention the fact that when you're seeking out talents, you're generally seeking out 17, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. A lot of the people that you're going to be signing on, because media companies like to sign on younger people, you're signing on people with no work experience, fresh out of high school and or college, no real life experience. And because we're talking about VTubers specifically, a lot of the people you're hiring are weebs, gamers, nerds, awkward, socially inept people.
I need to leave immediately and have a rage fap.
Hey, I peed like a charge rifle. I'm gonna fucking shoot up a Walmart!
You can't pluck an 18-year-old fresh out of high school who's never worked a job before in their life and throw them into a company where you're expected to perform at a high level consistently multiple days a week for a year or more. And so not only are you investing an insane amount of money, getting no guarantee of making your money back, and working with an inexperienced and potentially mentally unstable group of talents, no matter what happens, unlike basically any other company, the fan base is going to religiously follow not the company, but the talents. Even if they graduate or get terminated, the thing is, even though they might have an avatar and a name and a personality and an IP, it is very common for these talents to do their year or less within the company, build up a massive fan base, leave, and take their fan base with them. So you could potentially be investing all this money into someone who's just going to profit off of all the promotion and investment that you put in and absolutely run with it. Almost 40% of all businesses fail within the first 3 years. Hell, 20% of them fail within their first year. Starting a business is expensive and risky and difficult to manage, and when you plop on everything we've just discussed on top of that, it's honestly a coin flip whether or not you're going to survive even a year. And worst of all, if an individual talent strikes out on their own and attempts to succeed and they fail, that's on them. There's not usually a catastrophic blowout as a result of one individual not succeeding or having some big controversy. Everything's kind of on them. When you have a company that supports 5, 6, 7, 8 to God knows how many talents, one fuck up from one talent not only tarnishes their reputation, it tarnishes the company reputation and the reputation of all the other talents associated with that company. The more people you bring on, the more risks you bring on. And that goes both ways. At a normal company that isn't as in the public eye, if you have shit management, no one's gonna notice or care or likely even find out. But when you're dealing in entertainment, you're effectively dealing in communications. So if you have shitty management, that's gonna get communicated. And it's gonna get communicated to a massive and loyal fan base who's only here because they like the talents. So you don't have to be just as good as the average company, you have to be better than the average company. You have to stay as squeaky clean as physically possible. And even if the talents themselves keep their mouth shut and are obedient to the NDA, you have so many eyes on you just waiting for you to fuck up. The fans are hanging on your every word, and you've got channels such as mine, news, commentary, drama channels, who are just salivating at the thought of you fucking up so we can make content for it. Because there's no better content in this game than a great big corporate drama where some capitalist pig can be raked through the coals. Starting an entertainment company is probably the only company you could found where you've got a literal horde of people putting you under a fucking microscope every single day. And on top of that, not only do you have this very intense, very loyal, passionate audience, this is also an audience with a very high level of crazy people. People who are willing to say and do insane things out of either fickle anger or genuine passion for the content creator. They will ruin your life. Even though the majority of the people in this community I genuinely mostly get along with, and most of them are good, chill people who are just here to see some entertaining people do entertaining things, it's very much peppered with psychopaths that are going to dox you and send you death threats. And on top of all of that, the people who are starting these VTuber companies oftentimes are not genuine fans of VTubing and are not people who are well versed in the culture, and quite frankly they don't know what they're getting themselves into. You've got a whole bunch of these Silicon Valley fuckwits who see a trend and they see numbers going up and they're like, oh, I gotta get me some of that trendy money. I see numbers on a chart going up, time to hop on and invest. But VTubing isn't the stock market. VTubing isn't cryptocurrency. You can't just jump on a trend, invest some money, and go to the moon. It requires work. It requires intelligence. It requires problem solving. It requires an intense understanding of the culture you're getting yourself invested into. So you may be wondering, why are so many of these VTuber companies failing? But really the question should be, Holy shit, how are any of them succeeding? So in my opinion, really we should stop being surprised that so many of these companies are absolutely collapsing, and instead open your eyes and realize how insane it is that any of them have succeeded. And for the ones that are still standing and still have a good reputation and are popular and are profitable, take a moment to appreciate how wildly improbable that actually is. If this were easy, everyone would do it. And when you consider that most of the people who have tried fucked it up and failed, is proof. It is a testament to the fact that this industry is not easy. But even though I want to genuinely impress upon my audience how difficult running a company like this must be for the people in charge, I don't want for a nanosecond to imply that you should give these people any grace, any leeway whatsoever. I believe as fans it is our duty to hold their face to the coals, to put them under a microscope and hold them accountable for every single fuck up. This is an industry that picks up very young people who are in a very precarious position, many of whom have serious mental health issues, many of whom are very susceptible to having breakdowns and going crazy from the onslaught of negative social media attention they get. These companies have to be held to the highest possible standard. They have to be criticized and reviewed and made sure that they are operating at the highest level of quality possible. This is a genre where individual creativity really shines through at every single level. And honestly, a corporation, in my opinion, brings nothing to the table but risk. But at the end of the day, that's only my opinion. And I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments down below. Bye guys.